Hi everyone. You may be surprised to see me back so soon, but it's hot today and I didn't feel like doing anything else, so I thought I'd do a quick response to a comment beneath my last video reacting to Sabine Hossenfelder on transgender teens. I must say I was blown away by the very positive reaction to that video, including from many who love Sabine because she has made many excellent videos, so I'm told, but who was so disappointed in this video. And I love my trolls so much. They give me great material, and Neil Horsfield is no exception. Neil posted an exemplary comment which provides me with yet another opportunity to expose what are quite common flaws in how people argue, and the purpose of my doing so is to try to make people aware and watch out for the tendencies to do this in their own arguments, and I include myself in that, by the way. Let us begin. Saline Hossenfelder. No need to be salty about her. Sorry, I know that's mean when I make more typos than anyone else alive, but some typos are just funnier than others. So, Sabine Hossenfelder is very careful about what she says. I don't doubt it. Everyone who dares to speak about transgenderism at all should be very careful about what they say, because whatever you say, you're going to be criticised, challenged, or just attacked by one side or the other, or both. If you say something the gender loonies don't want to hear, you could pay dearly for it. I think that's why most people with any kind of public profile are too cowardly to do so. It is one of the strengths of her channel, and she would have been drawing on the best scientific and medical opinions currently available. Oh, really? So why didn't she quote any? She made a few very specific claims about what gender is, and she said it was a feeling, about where gender identity, which is a feeling, comes from, and that transgenderism has existed for thousands of years. Why didn't she link to a single peer-reviewed paper that backs up her claims, do you think? Because no such paper exists. What Neil is doing here is making a fallacious appeal to authority on a subject in which Sabine has no authority. That is why I feel especially cross with people like Sabine, people who are accomplished and who've won respect for what she does right, but those people who don't have the nous to realise that even the best and most accomplished people can get things wrong, and that arguments still have to be judged on their own merits. They are going to come away badly misinformed and not realise it. What Neil Horsfield would probably refuse to acknowledge is that I draw on the best scientific and medical evidence, not just opinions, available, and that is exactly why I take the position that I do. But Neil puts it like this: unlike you, she has no axe to grind on this issue. Now, this is the well-known fallacy called getting it arse backwards. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if it's a well-known fallacy. In fact, I could have just made it up. But it's certainly something people do. This is how it goes. You start off from a position that is either neutral because you don't know very much about the topic, or because of your preconceptions, you may be instinctively a bit or even very sympathetic, or you may be a bit or very hostile to a particular proposition or idea. In this case, the idea is that there is something called gender identity, and it is more important than your biological sex in determining whether you are a man or a woman. And there is a whole bunch of real-life consequences that flow from that. You start to find out more, and while doing so, you may even, as I did myself, do a bit of zigzagging between sympathy and hostility before reaching a conclusion, which may only come after a lot of investigation. And then you are dismayed to find out that people completely disregard the possibility that the reason you think as you do is that you have researched the subject so very thoroughly that you have no option but to come to the conclusion that you have. And they assume that you have some other selfish, ulterior motive, that you have an axe to grind. In other words, they've got it arse backwards. And compared to you, with your axe to grind, the view of someone who doesn't come out strongly either for or against the idea, as Neil tells us, carries more weight than yours. I'm sorry, but to say that someone's view carries more weight just because they don't, as you put it, have an axe to grind is just sloppy thinking. Arguments stand on their own merits, regardless of who makes them. It's even more deeply flawed when the truth is that one person has spent far more time researching and acquiring knowledge, as a result of which they feel more strongly and more passionately about the subject than the other person who has done minimal research and doesn't feel particularly strongly about it. So just be aware of getting it arse backwards. The next thing Neil says is, in a way, it's more important. I did not find your critique very convincing, partly because you do not provide any evidence for what you say. This is something you accuse Sabina of doing. Now, I know that is true, but unfortunately, Neil doesn't say which claims of mine he thought I should provide evidence for, any more than which claims of Sabina he was inclined to believe, in spite of the complete lack of evidence for them. My main argument is always that gender ideology is unscientific and it hurts people, and as I've said in the video, I've talked about how it hurts people so many times already. And did I mention that I have a website with masses of information on this? Maybe I didn't, but I don't feel obligated to go over the same stuff again and again when I can point you in the right direction and you can do your own research if you care enough. I also said that transgenderism is a modern phenomenon, a 20th century social construct. I could have spoken more about that, and I will do in a future video. But I said this in response to Sabina's claim that transgenderism has existed for thousands of years, which she failed to produce any evidence for. So if that's the area of contention you have in mind, Neil, you've got a double standard going on. Although I'm not sure why a citation should be needed for saying there is no such thing as normal when it's self-evidently true.
And then there are normal people like you and I who think both sides are crazy, and could someone please summarize the facts in simple words? Have you ever seen a normal human? I haven't.
You sound as confused as Sabina herself, Neil. That was a great catch by another commenter called Irfin Juice, by the way. Firstly, as you can see, Sabina does not say there is no such thing as normal. Secondly, that's not what I was asking for citations for. Sorry that I evidently didn't make it clear enough that I was asking for a citation for what she said immediately prior to the nonsense about never having seen a normal human being. That was obviously intended as a joke. I was asking for a citation for her unequivocal claim that transgenderism has existed for thousands of years. Your views are further weakened because you state things about what happens in schools, which I know to be untrue. For me, that makes all the other claims you make suspect. No, I did not state things about what happens in schools. I did not mention schools at all in that video, so I don't know what Neil is talking or thinking about here. And of course, I take strong exception to the suggestion that I made a false statement about anything. But what I find interesting is that Neil is saying the exact same thing about me as a couple of other commenters said about Sabina. They said things like, if she's wrong, or even if she lies about this, how can we trust what she says on anything else? I'm assuming those were commenters who don't know Sabina, who don't watch her videos. It's ad hominem, but it shows the danger of talking about a very controversial topic that you only have a superficial understanding of. None of us can know what possessed Sabina to want to talk about this topic. And I know she's done one on trans in sports too, which she caught a lot of flack for, which is why I don't want to watch it. But as I've said countless times before, look at the arguments, look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the evidence for claims made or lack thereof, rather than the person making them. That's all. Bye for now.